Shabbat Shalom. This week we have a long double parsha, vיקהל פקודי, and it's not just long, but to many of us it seems repetitive. Most of what the two parshot say has already come in slightly different form in the Truma, Tzvi, at the beginning of Ketisa, the instructions for constructing the Mishkan, the Tabernacle, and the Kalim, the vessels that were placed within it, and the vestments, the Bigdei Kahuna, the special clothing that the priests wore when carrying out the service in the temple. I think one of the best and most popular explanations is given in the Langermann, who calls attention to the order of the parashiot, the order of the passages in Sefer Shemot. I should mention that the Langermann places great stock in the order in which the Torah presents its passages, its chapters. There is a rule in Jewish exegesis called Ein Mukdam U'Muchar B'Torah, which means basically that the Torah does not present things in chronological order, but the Langermann thinks that is a special rule that is applied in only certain circumstances, that as a rule the Torah does present things in the order in which they happened. So if we were to look at the way the order of the parashot that we've mentioned in the second part of Sefer Shemot, we have, as I said, Truma Tzvi, the beginning of Ketisa, giving the instructions, the commandments to build the Mishkan, and then we have we have Moshe going up to Har Sinai and getting the Torah, and then we have this terrible episode of the golden calf, this terrible, great, pivotal sin in Jewish history, and then we have the kapara, basically, the way it was atoned for, and then Moshe going up and getting a second set of tablets, and then we have the rules, the instructions, and so on for the Mishkan coming again in our parashot, vיקהל פקודי, which basically indicates or signals that everything is back to normal. We had a very distressing episode with the golden calf, with the Egel Azav, but now everything is fine. Everything is back to where we were, and we can go back to where we left off, which was building the Mishkan. The Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch accepts this same explanation, but learns from it an important lesson. An important lesson is that the temple ritual, the Mishkan ritual, the animal sacrifices, incense burning, and so on and so forth, was not necessary at all for the atonement. Many, quote, primitive cultures, or many cults, regard the temples, and of course there are temples all over the world, with their various and sundry rites and rituals, to be something that is indispensable for atonement. And what the Torah has shown us is that that things were suspended. Moshe got the instructions to build the Mishkan and make the vessels that will be used for the temple ritual, and then things were suspended at Har Sinai when Moshe got the Torah, and when we had this very sad episode of the golden calf. But it was atoned for. The matter was settled without any temple ritual for atonement. And then we went back to building the Mishkan. So we learned this important lesson that this critical issue in human life, atoning for our sins, and we all sin one way or the other, we do not need a temple ritual. I wonder how the Rambam, Maimonides, would have looked at this. The Rambam, of course, doesn't have a commentary on the Torah, and he doesn't talk about the the issues I've talked about here today, but his pronouncements on especially the Beit HaMikdash and the temple ritual are paradoxical in my mind. On the one hand, he has his unmistakable and controversial explanation for Tam mitzvot, which is shocking, so shocking that most Jews would prefer not to hear it, but those who are intellectually honest, like the Ramban, listen to it and try to deal with it. He thinks that the temple ritual was given not as a primary intention of Jewish life, but as a secondary intention in order to achieve the primary goal of the Torah, which is to wean the Jewish people from false beliefs, from idolatrous practices, but even more so from false, untrue beliefs. It was necessary to offer them certain instruments, so to say, that were considered at the time indispensable for the religious life. At the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim, at the time of the Torah was given, the idea of a religion without animal sacrifices was preposterous. If Moshe would have come down from Har Sinai and told the Jewish people, our religion calls for us to study the cosmos closely in order to discern and prove to ourselves the presence of God and to lead moral lives and devote all of our energy and time except what we need for the basic necessities of life to study and contemplation, they would have thought that was ridiculous. Maimonides says, to say that at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim would be like in our own day to say, we don't need, prayer services. It's just, these things are considered to be indispensable because in our environment, meaning the other nations of the world this is how people conduct their religious lives. So the temple rituals were given only for that reason. And Maimonides says other shocking things. For example, he says that there is absolutely no deep hidden secret reason behind the particular animals that were offered for sacrifice as sheep and goats, other than that they were readily available, and that there's no mystical significance in the numbers, that there should be, like, say, two sheep offered on the Korban Shabbos, the Sabbath sacrifice. These are, like I said, shocking to the Jewish religious sensibilities even today, and most people would prefer not to hear it, or else to think, that there's some hidden meaning there. On the other hand, when it comes to the Beit HaMikdash, and I'm talking about not so much the Mishkan, but the Beit HaMikdash, the Rambam says other things. In the Moreh Nevuchim, he indicates that Har Moriah, Har Abayit, the Temple Mount, which is where the Jewish temple was, and the United Nations can pass as many resolutions as it wants. You can't, turn a lie into truth by having the United Nations certify it. Was chosen by Abraham, when he declared at the Akedah, he declared in the Torah, the verse reads, Vayikra Abraham Shema Makomahu Adonai Yera'eh, Asher Yi'amer Hayom Bahar Adonai Yera'eh. But the Targum tells us that it translates this to mean that in this place worship, Har Hashem Yareh, means in this place worship will be conducted, and Abraham chose Har Moriah to be the site of the temple. Then the Rambam goes on and says that, why doesn't the Torah tell us precisely where this Temple Mount is? And he gives several reasons. The first of it is that if people would know exactly where it is, the people would fight about it. There would be wars over it. Well, we know that this is true, but the Rambam was not simply being, showing foresight as to what would happen in our own day. In his own day, the Egyptian government with which he was closely associated was involved in taking over Har HaBayit, or as they would say, liberating it. The Rambam also says liberating it from the Crusaders. The Rambam was the personal physician of Al-Qadi al-Fadl, who was the chief administrator of Egypt, both civil and religious. And he was the person really who goaded Salah ad-Din into carrying on the war against the Crusaders and retaking the Holy Land. And the Rambam praises him for this. In the introduction to his book on toxicology, he praises Al-Qadi al-Fadl for doing this. And then the other reason being, the other reasons being that the tribes, the main reason being, but the Rambam also says the reason that there be wars over this is that the place of the temple is what he calls Rayat al-Torah fil Ard. Raya is the Arabic equivalent of the Greek telos, meaning ultimate purpose, the reason for something to exist. And the ultimate purpose, the ultimate goal of the Torah is this mikdash. In Mishnah Torah, he says he doesn't talk so much about this, but he talks about the place of the altar, the mizbeach, which he says that the place, the position, the precise location of the mizbeach was mekuvan ma'od, precisely calculated, as if there's something particularly special about the precise coordinates of where this mikdash, where the mizbeach is. It can't budge a centimeter from it. And he says other things that are hard to square with what he says in the Moreh Nevuchim, talking about this being the place not only of the Kedah, but where Cain and Hevel had their sacrificial acts, and where Adam Harishon, according to the Midrash, offered a sacrifice. These things are hard to square with the Rambam's interpretation of Adam Harishon in the Moreh Nevuchim. Of course, he doesn't mention anything there about Adam's sacrifice, and his understanding of Cain and Hevel is far, far removed from the Pshat. Yet the Rambam does say this, and of course these passages are pounced upon by Chabad for the Rambam that they've redesigned, for the Maimonides that they have redesigned for their own purposes. But frankly speaking, we can no more dismiss these passages as being simply drash or something to make the story appealing to the commenters than the more spiritualist pneumatics can dismiss the very clear and unmistakable remarks the Rambam makes in his Guide of the Perplexed. So I remain a bit perplexed about what the Rambam would have said, and we would like to be able to interview the Rambam. But he said a lot and wrote a lot, but he left a lot unsaid, and left a lot for us to scratch our heads and wonder what he really meant. But anyway, this was I think some interesting insights into this double parsha, and wish you all a good Shabbos, and thank you for watching.